All right, everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. We are setting sail with the Straw Hats this time. Through One Piece, chapters 96 to 101, it's charting their course from that first bounty to the grand entrance into the Grand Line. And let me tell you, some serious twists and turns along the way.
Oh, yeah, definitely a pivotal stretch. We're going to see echoes of the past, we're going to meet some powerful new characters, and we're going to see Nami's navigation skills truly put to the test.
Oh, absolutely. Right off the bat, we see how news travels in the One Piece world. Luffy's first bounty poster drops 30 million berries. The Marines are in a frenzy. But back in Luffy's hometown, surprisingly chill. The mayor doesn't even bat an eye. What do you think that says about how the people who know him best view Luffy?
It's fascinating, isn't it? It's almost like they always knew Luffy was destined for greatness, even if it meant causing a bit of mayhem along the way.
Yeah.
The world government sees him as a threat, but in his hometown, it's more like, yep, that sounds about right.
It's that small town pride. But before they tackle the Grand Line, the Straw Hats make a stop at Loguetown. Now, this isn't just any island. What makes Loguetown so significant in the grand scheme of One Piece?
Well, this is where Gold Roger was both born and executed.
Oh, wow.
The beginning and the end for the Pirate King. And his execution on that very platform launched the entire pirate era.
Yeah.
It's powerful that Luffy visits that same execution platform, almost like he's stepping into Roger's footsteps.
All right.
Do you feel that parallel with destiny?
Oh, for sure. You can't ignore that sense of fate hanging over Loguetown.
Right.
And while Luffy's confronting history, Zoro has an interesting encounter of his own. He runs into this woman who's the spitting image of Kuna, his childhood rival. What do you think Oda is trying to tell us with this mirrored encounter?
Well, remember, Kuina was the one Zoro swore he would surpass to become the world's greatest swordsman. Seeing her face again, it's got to shake him up, forces him to confront his past and the promise that he made. Makes you wonder if this foreshadows, future conflicts or even new rivals down the line.
It definitely adds a layer of complexity to Zoro's journey.
For sure.
And speaking of Zoro, he's on the hunt for new swords, which leads him to Sandai Katetsu, a legendary Mado, one of those famous swords. But this one comes with a curse.
Ooh.
Can you tell us a little more about the significance of Mado and why a cursed blade adds so much intrigue?
Well, Mado are a big deal in the One Piece world. They hold immense power, history, often tied to, legendary figures. And a cursed blade like Sandai Katetsu adds another layer. It chooses its owner. Not everyone can handle its power. It's almost a test of character, Do you think anyone else in the Straw Hats could wield a sword like that?
It takes a certain kind of strength, that's for sure.
Yes.
Zoro tests his luck against the curse and the sword accepts him. Talk about a badass moment.
Yeah. But while Zoro's busy with his new blade, things aren't going so smoothly for Luffy. Buggy the Clown is back, and he's out for revenge. What's your take on Buggy's motivations here? Do you think he's truly ruthless, or is there something else going on? Well, he tries to execute Luffy on the same platform as Gold Roger, which is a pretty bold statement, right? He wants to make a name for himself, and he's using Luffy to do it. This also sets the stage for the arrival of Smoker, a formidable marine captain with the Moku Mokunomi, the smoke fruit. Smoker's determined to capture Luffy, adding another layer of danger to this already tense situation.
Right. We're talking devil fruits now. Can you give us a quick rundown of devil fruit powers and why Smoker's fruit is such a challenge for Luffy?
Sure. Devil fruits grant their users unique abilities, and Smoker's smoke fruit lets him turn into and control smoke. Makes him incredibly difficult to hit. He can even use his smoke to restrict Luffy's movements. But remember, devil fruit users have a weakness. What is it? Do you remember?
Sea stone, the one thing that can weaken a devil fruit user. But back in Loguetown, Luffy's about to be executed by Buggy when, bam, a lightning bolt strikes the execution platform. What do you make of this sudden turn of events? Pure luck or something more?
It certainly feels like fate intervened, would you say? It gives the Straw Hats the distraction they need to escape Loguetown, with Smoker hot on their heels. But just when it seems like they're cornered, a mysterious figure named Dragon appears. He unleashes this powerful gust of wind that blows everyone back, allowing the Straw Hats to flee. Have you ever encountered a character as enigmatic as Dragon before?
He just appears out of nowhere.
I know.
Who is this Dragon? What are his motives? What's his connection to Luffy? It's like Oda's throwing us a huge mystery right from the start. Talk about leaving us wanting more. And with that escape, they set sail for the Calm Belt, a stretch of ocean that's anything but calm.
Right, yeah. The name is quite deceptive. The calm belt is notorious for its lack of wind and currents, which makes sailing nearly impossible. But the real danger lies beneath the surface. That's where you find the sea kings, these colossal sea monsters. What do you think Oda is trying to convey by throwing this obstacle in their path so soon after entering the Grand Line?
It's a reality check. Right, the Grand Line is no joke. It's a wild, untamed place where even getting from point A to point B can be a life or death struggle, and the Sea Kings are just a taste of the dangers to come.
Exactly. And how do they even get through the calm belt to the Grand Line? Well, they have to go through Reverse Mountain, and that's where Nami truly shines. Can you imagine navigating a ship up a mountain?
It sounds impossible. How does she even pull that off?
Think about it. The currents from the four seas converge at Reverse Mountain, creating this powerful upslope that could actually carry a ship to the top. It's this incredible feat of natural engineering. And Nami, with her knowledge of the sea and her incredible navigation skills, she guides the ship through this treacherous passage.
It's a heart-stopping sequence. You see her confidence, her expertise as she maneuvers through those swirling currents. And then finally, they see it, the Grand Line. It's like a promise of adventure stretching out before them. What's going through your mind as you witness that moment with the Straw Hats? What are you most excited to see them encounter in this vast, uncharted territory?
Well, for starters, I'm excited to see how they handle the unique challenges of the Grand Line, like navigating unpredictable weather patterns and encountering even more bizarre and powerful creatures. And then there's a whole mystery surrounding Dragon and his connection to Luffy.
I know, right.
So many questions.
But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's take a closer look at some of the individual moments and characters that really stood out in these chapters, shall we?
Yeah, let's do it.
Starting with Zoro's confrontation with Tashigi back in Loguetown. It's more than just a sword fight, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Their fight is almost symbolic. You know, you have Tashigi, this marine, obsessed with righteousness and collecting famous swords, clashing with Zoro, a pirate who values strength and loyalty above all else. Makes you question, what does it mean to be righteous in a world where the lines between good and evil are so blurred?
Yeah, it's a theme that runs throughout One Piece.
Totally.
There are good and bad people on both sides of the law. And then there's Zoro's refusal to kill Tashigi. Is it because he sees a reflection of Kuna in her? Or is it something else? What do you make of that moment?
It's a moment that reveals so much about Zoro's character. You know, he's not just a ruthless swordsman. He has a code of honor. And yes, seeing Tashigi, who resembles Kuna, likely plays a part in his decision. It reminds him of his promise to become the world's greatest swordsman, a goal he can't achieve if he lets, sentiment cloud his judgment.
It's a fascinating dynamic, and it makes their future encounters even more intriguing. But before we dive deeper into those individual moments, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll explore the significance of Buggy's devil fruit, unravel the mysteries surrounding Dragon, and delve into the challenges that await the Straw Hats as they venture further into the Grand Line. Welcome back. Before the break, we were talking about how entering the Grand Line is a total game changer. The very first scene with Luffy mistaking the lighthouse for a distress signal. That tells you something right there.
It's that blend of naivete and unwavering optimism.
Right.
He's like a kid in a candy store. But this candy store is full of pirates and monsters and who knows what else. You got to admire his enthusiasm, even if it gets him into trouble sometimes.
Totally. But luckily, they have Nami on board. She's the voice of reason, and when she explains how they're getting to the Grand Line, well, it sounds completely bonkers. Sailing up a mountain, Reverse Mountain doesn't seem to follow the rules of physics.
Oda loves to challenge our expectations. And this is where Nami's expertise really shines. Think about it. The currents from the four major seas all converge at this one spot. They clash, they swirl, and they create this insane upslope. It can literally carry a ship upwards. Have you ever seen anything like that in any other adventure story?
It's like something out of a dream or nightmare, depending on how well you can steer. And speaking of steering, things get really tense when that rudder breaks. They're about to slam into the red line, this massive wall that divides the world, and it's Luffy's rubber powers to the rescue.
It's those moments where Oda blends humor and high stakes so well, don't you think?
Yeah.
You're on the edge of your seat, but then you see Luffy basically turning himself into a giant bouncy ball to cushion the impact. You gotta laugh, even as you're relieved they didn't crash.
Yeah, the way Oda pulls off those tonal shifts is amazing. But then that moment, They see the Grand Line for the first time, everything they've worked for, all the trials they've faced. It leads to this. What does that moment make you feel as a reader?
Pure hope,
Yeah.
like a sense of possibility, like the world is just cracked open and revealed a whole new level of adventure. But it's not all sunshine and rainbows, because right after that breathtaking vista, they're stuck in the calm belt.
Yeah.
And it lives up to its name in the worst way possible.
No wind, no currents. You're basically a sitting duck. And that's when the Sea Kings show up. Talk about a nightmare scenario. Those things are massive. It feels like Oda's saying, welcome to the Grand Line. Here's a monster bigger than anything you've ever seen before.
Exactly. It sets the tone. This isn't East Blue anymore. The dangers are real, and they're on a whole other scale.
Yeah.
The calm belt is like a filter. If you can't handle this, you have no business being in the Grand Line.
And our Straw Hats, well, they're nothing if not persistent. But, you know, while we're on the topic of challenges, Zoro's fight with Tashigi back in Loguetown keeps coming to mind. It's more than just swords clashing. There's a clash of philosophies going on there.
100%. You've got Tashigi, who believes swords should be wielded by the righteous, which is kind of ironic considering she's a Marine and Zoro's a pirate. And you have Zoro, who respects strength and loyalty above all else. Whose side are you on in that debate? It's not an easy question to answer.
Right. It makes you think about the whole concept of justice in One Piece. Who gets to decide what's right and wrong, especially when you've got pirates who are more honorable than some Marines?
And don't forget, Zoro could get killed Tashigi. She was at his mercy. But he didn't. He saw a reflection of Kuina in her, but there's also a sense that he's holding back, that he's not willing to cross that line. It adds a layer of depth to his character, don't you think?
Totally. It's that complexity that makes these characters so compelling. But let's shift gears a bit and talk about Buggy's devil fruit, because that's wild. The Bara Bara no Mi, the chop chop fruit, he can literally split his body apart and control the pieces.
It's both comical and kind of terrifying, right? And it fits his personality so well. Buggy's all about theatrics and misdirection and playing tricks. His devil fruit power is like an extension of that. It's not about brute force, it's about outsmarting your opponent.
It makes me wonder, is Oda intentionally matching devil fruits to personalities, or is it just a happy coincidence? And then there's Smoker's devil fruit, the Moku no Mi, turning into smoke. That's got to be tough to fight against.
Especially for Luffy. Remember, Logia-type devil fruits allow the user to transform into an element. So Smoker can become intangible smoke, making him incredibly hard to hit. And he can even use that smoke to capture and restrain his opponents. It's a pretty powerful ability.
And a stark contrast to Luffy's Gum Gum fruit. It's like Oda's setting up this whole battle of styles, brute force versus elemental control. But speaking of powerful forces, we have to talk about Dragon. That moment when he shows up to save Luffy, it's so brief, but it leaves a huge impact. What did you think when you first saw that scene?
Pure mystery, right? He just appears out of nowhere, unleashes this incredible gust of wind, and then drops this cryptic line about the world waiting for an answer. Who is this guy? What are his motives? And what does he mean by the world waiting for our answer?
It's like Oda's dangling a carrot in front of us, giving us just enough to, pique our curiosity, but leaving us with a ton of questions. And the way he controls the wind, what kind of power is that? Is it a devil fruit? Something else entirely? It's one of the biggest mysteries in the early part of the story.
And it's interesting? That single act of intervention has huge ripple effects, not just for Luffy and the Straw Hats, but for the entire world.
Yeah.
It's like Dragon is setting events in motion that we won't even understand until much later in the story.
It's that long game storytelling that Oda excels at, planting those seeds early on and letting them grow over time. But let's not forget about the other members of the crew.
Each of them has their own role to play, their own unique skills and personalities that contribute to the crew's dynamic.
Right. I mean, we could spend hours talking about Sanji and his cooking, Usopp and his tall tales, or Nami and her, well, everything.
And that's what makes the Straw Hats so special. They're more than just a crew. They're a family. They support each other, they challenge each other, and they push each other to grow.
And together, they're ready to face anything the Grand Line throws at them. Well, almost anything. Let's not forget, Buggy the Clown is still out there.
Oh, right. You can't keep a good, or should we say bad, clown down. He might not be the biggest threat, but you can bet he'll be back to cause more chaos sooner or later.
And that's a good place to wrap up part 2, wouldn't you say? We've talked about the high stakes, the incredible world building, and the compelling characters that make these chapters so memorable.
Absolutely. We've only scratched the surface of what these chapters have to offer, and there's still so much to explore.
And we're back. As we sail further into the Grand Line, I'm struck by how the tone has shifted. It's gotten bigger, wilder, more unpredictable. It's like the world itself is breathing a sigh of relief, ready to let loose after being confined to, East Blue for so long.
It's that sense of limitless possibility that Oda captures so well, don't you think? The Grand Line is a blank slate full of uncharted territories and untold stories. And as readers, we get to embark on this journey of discovery right alongside the Straw Hats. What are you most excited to see them encounter as we venture deeper into this uncharted territory?
For me, it's those unexpected twists and turns that Oda throws at us. Just when you think you have a handle on things, he introduces a new character, a new islet, a new power that completely, flips the script.
Yeah?
And speaking of unexpected powers, let's talk about Buggy's transformation. Sure, he's a clown, but that devil fruit power of his, the Bara Bara no Mai, is seriously freaky.
The chop-chopped fruit, as it's also known, gives him the ability to split his body apart and control those detached pieces. It's comical, right? But there's also a layer of creepiness to it. He can detach his head, his hands, his feet. It's like a nightmare circus act come to life.
It's almost like Oda's saying, don't underestimate the clown. But beyond the shock value, it makes you think about the deeper implications of devil fruit powers. Each one is unique. Each one comes with its own strengths and weaknesses. It's like a giant game of cosmic roulette where the rules are constantly changing.
Exactly. And it's not just about brute force. Strategy, cunning, knowing your enemy's weaknesses, those are just as important as raw power. Remember that scene where Smoker captures Buggy and Alvida using a net made of sea stone? It's a brilliant tactical move, a reminder that even the most powerful devil fruit users have a vulnerability.
Sea stone, the Achilles heel of every devil fruit eater.
Right.
It's a fascinating element and one that plays a significant role throughout the story. It's like Oda's way of saying, even in a world of fantastical powers, there are still rules. There are still limitations.
Right. There's a balance even within the chaos.
Yeah.
But back to that scene with Buggy and Alvida, it's not just about Smoker's clever use of sea stone. It's also about highlighting the differences between devil fruit types.
Yeah.
Buggy's chop-chopped fruit is a paramecia, which grants the user a superhuman ability.
Right.
Smoker's smoke fruit, on the other hand, is the Logia, which allows him to transform into an element, in his case, smoke.
Which makes him incredibly difficult to fight. Luffy's punches just go right through him.
Yeah.
It's a classic matchup. Brute force versus elemental control.
It's a dynamic we'll see play out again and again as the Straw Hats encounter new opponents with even more diverse devil fruit powers. But you know what moment really sent shivers down my spine? That brief encounter with Dragon.
Oh, absolutely. He appears out of nowhere, saves Luffy from Smoker's grasp with a single gust of wind, and then drops that cryptic line, "The world is waiting for our answer." It's like a punch to the gut.
Right. It's this sudden realization that there are forces at work, hidden agendas, a grander scheme that we're only just beginning to glimpse. Who is this dragon? What is his answer? And how does Luffy fit into all of this?
It's a mystery that hangs over the entire saga. Makes you question everything, doesn't it? What are the true motives of the world government? What secrets lie hidden in the darkest corners of the Grand Line? And what role will Luffy ultimately play in shaping the fate of the world?
Those are the big questions that Oda keeps us pondering, even after all these chapters. And that's the magic of One Piece. It's not just about the fights, the adventures, the devil fruits. It's about exploring these larger themes of freedom, destiny, and the power of belief.
Yeah, it's about finding your crew, your nakama, and fighting for what you believe in, even if it means going up against the entire world. And as we leave Loguetown and venture further into the Grand Line, I can't help but feel this surge of excitement, a sense of anticipation for what lies ahead. What about you? What are your final thoughts as we wrap up this deep dive?
I'm left with this overwhelming sense of possibility. The Straw Hats are about to enter a world unlike anything they've ever seen before. They'll face new challenges, forge new alliances, and uncover secrets that will shake the very foundations of their world. And as readers, we get to be a part of that journey every step of the way.
So to all our listeners out there, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep those Jolly Rogers flying high, and may your own journeys be filled with adventure, laughter, and the unwavering spirit of the Straw Hat Pirates.